Well, hey everybody. I just want to go ahead and welcome you to this event. My name's Alex. I lead Sharebird. It's a site where uh, top product marketing leaders share their expertise. And so really excited for this event. Uh, seems like there's a lot of interest in this topic. We have a really great panel that'll bring a lot of clarity around AI, which I'm sure we all want and maybe can't all quite get yet. But specifically both around how it impacts your products and also how it impacts your job. So this a quick thing on format. So the first half of the event will be questions from the moderator, JD. And then the second half will be live questions. So for live questions, you don't have to wait until the second half of the event. There's a little feature on Zoom that says Q&A. Go ahead and whatever questions you have, go ahead and ask them there. And then when you ask them, that will allow other attendees to be able to see it and upvote it. And then that will help JD on the live, second half. It'll help him select which questions to ask the panel. So again, there's a little Q&A feature at the bottom. Okay, so a couple announcements. The first announcement is, speaking of AI, I want to thank our sponsor, HeyGen, and for sponsoring this event. So just a quick thing about HeyGen. They help you send personalized videos at scale using AI. And so, like, to experience it for yourself, JD, our moderator, created a got distracted by the Q&A. Let me close that. He created a video, personalized video, for everybody in the audience, and it should be in the emails that you received. And you'll also receive another follow-up email tomorrow for this event with a personalized video from JD. And so it's really cool. So, as product marketers, we create videos. Video production takes a lot of time. It costs money. There's a lot of anxiety with even getting on the videos and how we're going to record. So HeyGen allows you to use AI to personalize videos, translate it. You can localize it in different languages. And you can even have an AI avatar deliver the video of yourself, really high quality, deliver a script. And so, yeah, you can actually try it for free. You can create your own AI avatar for free at heygen.com. So let me just drop a link for everybody to that. Okay, the second announcement and final announcement is our next Q&A panel is on September 26th, and it's on improving sales enablement, which is really relevant as we're all thinking about Q4. So there's a link here. The panel for that will be the VP of Product Marketing at Workday, the VP of Product Marketing at MaintainX, and the VP of Product Marketing at Verkada. All right, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get off video here now and hand it over to JD.
Sweet. Let's jump in. We've got an amazing panel here. You'll see Sarah, Dave, Claudia, all VPs of product marketing, and then some VP of brand, some VP of corporate and solutions. So not just product marketing anymore. Congrats. Scope creep is always good. More responsibility, bigger teams, more budget, hopefully. But today, just talking a little bit about the AI side of things. And it's going to be a fun one because we got some kind of application side, got some infrastructure side here on the panel to hopefully help us out. I've gone through and went through everyone that submitted questions, upvoted questions. I kind of organized them into some topics. So first topic that I really want to hop into, as there were a lot of questions around this one, and some skepticism, I think, is kind of behind these questions. And so I think the first question everyone's kind of wondering is just like, how are you even using AI? Are you even leveraging it? Are your teams using it? Are you doing anything more than just writing? That was one of my favorite questions. It was like, can it do anything other than generate text? And so we can kind of use that as a topic here. We'll spend a few minutes on this one, but Claudia, do you want to kick us off? How are you using it? Maybe yourself personally, and then maybe how your team's using it. Oh no, you went on mute there.
I need the.
There we go.
We have an internal task force that actually is fueled by our IT team, and they go around each department and assess how can we throw generative AI into the mix to help folks be more productive. And it's a collaboration with the business users, kind of providing suggestions or things that we really don't want to do. And those get turned into generative AI automations or mini apps that we use internally. Some examples, a lot of it is content-based, but transforming customer interviews into customer case studies, or transcribing talk tracks that are done live and turning that into a demo script that can be, pretty easily used. So really, it's trying to capture content and just take off that burden of adjusting or augmenting something versus the original thinking piece.
Nice.
I've got a million other examples, but that's just one.
No, I like it. I like that, I like that IT's involved too. I'm sure IT teams here are very happy. I know we got some security folks here with like Vanta and everything, but it's good that IT's involved. There's some, you can always get that shadow IT budget where like you got people over here using stuff that maybe they shouldn't. So that's always
I'd say
interesting.
that's not happening, but yeah, I'm trying to keep it centralized.
Yeah, I would say probably with the three of you being a little bit more in mature companies, hopefully it's a little bit more process. The smaller startups, I can almost guarantee it is good luck. Good luck wrangling that one. But Dave, how about you? Writing some code, or how are you using it?
I personally am not writing code, but we at GitLab are writing a lot of code with it, in part, and part of what product marketing has been doing is working on GitLab to integrate AI throughout the software creation process. And so that has been true for GitLab as a platform, but as a marketer, I would say our teams are very much in sort of the experimentation phase. And this is what we see across the board, which is the experimentation really starts with content creation. So everything that Claudia just brought up. But I think the light bulb is going off over people's head when they start moving beyond content creation and they start to interact with AI in some of the non-content, more product marketing strategy components. So as an example, using platforms like Prater, we're using AI to really understand sort of the competitive landscape and seeing the interaction between a platform like that and then interacting with things like Claude to get a better understanding of what are the moves that are actually going on in sort of the landscape. And so I would say, again, I would couch it as we're definitely in the experimentation phase. And one of the things that we're doing internally in the marketing team is we've set up sort of a working group so that different parts of the marketing team, not just product marketing, can share sort of tips and best practices and prompts that they use and sort of workflows that they use. And I think we're learning sort of together as a team.
Nice. I'm also a big Claude fan. I don't know. I like the way Claude talks to me. He's got a good voice and tone. I just, as a marketer, I appreciate it. I feel sometimes, ChatGPT can be a little verbose, and I'm like, can you bring that reading level down for me? You're probably a little too smart. But yeah, Sarah, how about you? What's going on over at Vanta?
Yeah, so similarly, we use quite a bit of AI within our product. A lot of security and compliance is like dense parsing of text and, mapping text to controls. And that's like very much in the wheelhouse of AI. On the marketing side, I would say like generation is one piece. I personally use it much more to become like better educated and more customer centric, and to be able to do that at scale. I think like one of my favorite things has been being able to feed in, like take, our 100 latest G2 reviews, or like look at 20 calls we've had across, the life cycle of a customer, and be able to quickly summarize. And like there's a prompt that a PMM shared with me around, uploading all of the calls and asking, what are her priorities with Vanta and her program? What challenges has this customer faced internally? What's her experience so far? And having it spit out those types of things. So instead of trying to sit and watch, 20 Gong calls a week, I think there's still a tremendous amount of value in watching calls, but you kind of can become more customer centric at scale. It can summarize analyst reports for you. And so that's how I've been primarily using it, just as a way to ingest more information rather than like generate more content.
Yeah, I like that one. And definitely a good use case is the summarization. I use summarization a lot, even for like myself. You're taking very dense, sometimes even just like docs, for the technical marketers out there, and you're like, I have no idea what is happening. Can you please explain this to me like I'm 5? And that's really nice because I don't have to like set up a meeting with like a DevRel team or something in order to do that. So summarization is a good one. Generating is a good one. I think some of the other ones that I've used, like predictive, right? Like sentiment analysis, that's technically AI, right? It's using some of that. So I've used that as well as like where are we on things with the positive, negative. So there are multiple use cases with AI. I like, Dave, still early innings. Like this is still so early. You would not believe it with the amount of hype that I'm sure even probably some of the pressure some of us all feel to then use it. But any favorite tools that you like? Any go-tos that you have in mind?
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Dave.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Well, I'll jump in first, which is, a lot of it starts with content creation, right? Because a big part of the product marketer's job, we are content workhorses. And I like to think of AI as a great sort of, ability to deal with the product marketing, product management challenge that we have from a ratio perspective, which is how do you do all the things that you need to do? And so our go-to is Jasper at this point. Jasper's been super helpful for us, both in the content strategy and operations part of our team, but also the core PMM part of the team, in terms of making sure that as we create the loads of content, it's at the quality level that it needs to be, and sort of aligned with the brand tone, the brand length, their personality, and all of that. So that's been super helpful. The only other thing that I'd point back to is, is what Sarah just said, which is a really smart comment, which is like, how do you get customer centricity at scale? And when so much of your team's time is taken with all of the more tactical things, like how do you create a battle card, how do you create a customer deck, and all of that, it's really sometimes hard to make the time to be much more closely aligned with the customer. And I think her feedback in terms of how to do that is super important for all of us.
One of the things so when I think of product marketing, I think about it as a very intellectual function that requires a deep amount of critical thinking, capturing tons of information and being able to synthesize it. And it's a pretty rare skill set, as well as exhausting, but that's what makes product marketers amazing. And generative AI cannot do that. We don't have repetitive tasks outside of, maybe creating a data sheet and copying and paste that in 5 different ways. So the guidance that I have for my team and kind of how I think about using it is, what are those micro tasks in between that are going to get you from A to B? And making sure that you're guiding it and you're linking it in the right way. So for example, a product launch, what are all of those micro tasks that you can offload that you don't necessarily want to do, but are critical to get from point A to point B, but never take out your critical thinking and your oversight of what those outputs are. It's still a very probabilistic, low accuracy tool, and it should be used very much in an assistive capacity. And we're all experimenting, right? We haven't figured it out. The other thing I'll say is Automation Anywhere, the company I work for, we have completely transformed our business into more of an AI-centric platform. And when we look at the landscape, there are really 3 kind of levels of generative AI. They're your foundational models, your Claudes, your GPTs of the world. Then they're your purpose-built applications that have specific functions. Like Gong is sales intelligence and embedding that generative AI there. Jasper is another one. And then there's the homegrown or the platform built capabilities that allow you to customize and do whatever you want for anything. And so you got to think about what is the problem that you want to solve and what is the right tool or the right platform or approach to build that out.
Cool. This has been like really good, like tactical advice too. And I see some questions coming in, so we'll make sure I'm cataloging. I see you. I just want you to know that. But let's move on to another topic. We have a lot of PMMs on, and one of the other themes that we saw come up was really around messaging and positioning. How do you think about, how do you talk about an AI when you're adding AI, into your product, or you're building a AI driven feature? Too many times, and I know we've all seen this in the last 6 months, you're just like beat over the head with it, where it's become like the new cloud, and you're like, I get it. Like, this is like almost too much. And so when you see it too much, it now becomes watered down. And then you think about, like, is this the true value? Is the value that it's actually AI, or is it actually like what you're able to accomplish, right? And so I'm curious how you balance these things as you're going into this AI world. You've got a new products, got new features, the roadmap is changing, maybe feeling pressure from the top down to integrate. I know that's been a common theme with a lot of companies as well. So Sarah, over to you. Like, what are your thoughts on all these?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like it feels like in the past 6 months, we've all forgotten that like AI has been around for a while, and many of the features that we've used for years are AI powered, like, autocomplete in your email and things like that. And so like, it's not a brand new concept. And I think the reason why those things have become so pervasive is because they're useful and valuable. And you're like, I clearly understand the time saving that brings me. And so I think as you're adding new capabilities, PMM, as Claudia alluded to, is like just kind of uniquely positioned to connect the product magic with what that user actually is looking to do or solve. And I think that is where we can be most valuable, is kind of explaining that end user benefit, like why is AI uniquely needed to solve that specific problem? Why was it implemented in the way that it was? And how can you, trust but verify that whatever solution you're delivering is, not hallucinating, accurate? Like, what controls are you giving the user? And I think PMM is kind of at the forefront of that conversation as well, from a positioning standpoint.
For us at Automation Anywhere, like I said, it's pretty fundamental to our identity. A year ago, we were softly going into more of the AI realm and positioning more features within the platform. But our entire category has shifted from intelligent automation to agentic automation. And so we have this nice container now where we can really lean into a lot of the AI capabilities shamelessly. But still, it is super critical, like Sarah said, is how do you articulate the value? We try to lead with value first. And part of it is, our biggest competitor is Microsoft. They have Copilot built into every product, so everyone's got it. But what can it do? And there are many limitations. So we work on talking about, we can automate X, Y, and Z process that is much more complex, much more mission critical, goes across multiple systems. And so we really lean into how we're positioning the outcome, the capabilities versus the features. And that is, the features are far less important to our buyers.
Dave, anything you want to jump in on?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the themes are very consistent. There's a lot of overlap, but like similar to Claudia, we compete with Microsoft as well, but the GitLab part, who doesn't at this point. And I think there are two things that I'd call out. The first, well, so we're 2 years into sort of the go-to-market or introduction of GitLab Duo, which is our version of AI throughout the software creation process. And as we've done that, I think for product marketers, it's really going back to basics, which is understand what the competitive landscape looks like, understand how your product is competitively differentiated from that, what makes our product different than the competitive product, and then driving a stark contrast between the two. There are times when maybe you want to use GitHub's product, but there are other times when you care about things like security and compliance and having AI throughout the software creation process where GitHub doesn't do the trick. And I'm bringing that up not as a promotion of GitLab, more as product marketers to really think about, this is a moment in go-to-market where we're going to have an outsized impact. And the way that we're going to do it is going back to the basics of positioning, messaging, and then choosing the right AI for the right use case that's out there, which has also been a theme that's come up.
And JD, if I could add just one more thought on the kind of branding level. Prior to Vanta, I was at Google for a number of years, and we're adding all of these features like smart suggest, smart reply, and we were naming everything smart when it had some sort of assistive capability. But suddenly it was like, oh shoot, every feature we're adding has some sort of assisted capability. And I'm seeing many companies repeat that pattern with AI. It's like AI answers, AI chatbot. And I think we should all assume that, at some point, every product we work on is going to be fundamentally AI powered across most applications. And so if you can think about branding at the platform level, we call ours Vanta AI, whatever that applies for your business, just future proofs you to think about a time when maybe all of your product is AI powered.
Sarah, we actually started going down that path and we looked at it and from a naming hierarchy standpoint, and it started to become a bit overwhelming and mushy. And so we don't really have an AI brand, and it's because it's inherent in everything within our product.
Cool. I like that. I think that's where we're moving, right? I mean, if every company's gonna be an AI company, we've all heard this phrase at least said, right? What does that look like? And that kind of bleeds into this last kind of theme. It's like, well, what skills do I need? And I've heard a few throughout the conversation. Feel free to repeat those, whether that's the intellectual curiosity, whether that's talking to customers, talking to real people. But just curious, in this AI-driven world where we can automate a lot of our tasks, I think you mentioned the A to B, those many steps there. What skills are going to be really important? After this one, we'll turn over to the Q&A section. But what would you leave the audience with? What are the skills that we need in this next 6 months to a year?
I heard a great quote, which I cannot take credit for, nor can I remember who said it. So sorry, someone on the call said it. But there was this notion that spell check would replace writers or Excel would replace accountants. And really what turned out to be the case was writers who use spell check and accountants who used Excel replaced those who didn't. And I think we're very much in the same position with AI, that being a PMM who understands the capabilities and the limitations of AI and can use it to up-level themselves, learn faster, generate faster, but not, succumb to just being a copy paste from an AI machine. Those people are going to go much further and be able to add much more value in a world where everything is becoming AI driven.
Yeah, a product marketer's brain, again, will be the most important tool. So continue to work on, strategic thinking. Prompt engineering is pretty important, and that's really what helps you kind of be self-defining in how you're going to use the tools versus waiting on someone else to do it for you, or writing a request for someone in a different function to develop a prompt for you. I don't do it enough. So it's something that is on my list of, getting more deeply trained in prompt engineering and how I can just have it more of an intrinsic part of how I think every day.
Yeah, I'll just add and say that I think one of the superpowers that a product marketer has is the intellectual curiosity, being deeply curious and asking lots of questions. And so I think a key principle for everyone to take away is I got this from a book that I recently read called Co-Intelligence, which if you've read it, great. If you haven't, highly recommend it, which is always invite AI to the table. Now there's some points that you shouldn't. We'll probably talk about that with some questions that come up. But as a product marketer right now, especially as many of us are still in experimental phase, always invite AI to the table. There are some use cases that you're going to find that it's going to provide a ton of value. There are other use cases you're going to test it on. You're going to be like, well, I probably spent too much time playing around with the tool and I could have just done it myself. And you're just not going to know by either individually or as a team until you actually invite it to the table. So that's what I would encourage.
That's great advice. That was Co-Intelligence book. I think Ethan Malik, right? Like
That's
Professor
right. Yeah.
like Wharton. He's worth following on social media. I love his like playfulness and like his curiosity with AI. So that inviting to the table is such great advice. So, all right, fantastic. We covered a lot there. We've went through like real use cases that we're actually using it for, more than just generating words on a computer screen, as I call it, just like moving pixels around. That's like what I do all day. That's what I tell my parents, at least. And then thinking through what skills are going to be important, and then also thinking about like our messaging and our positioning with AI, and really thinking about the value that we are enabling. So we have a lot of questions. I'm going to run through a couple of these. One I want to go back to was from Sander. This was around the customer centricity at scale. So we talked about this in the very beginning. So how do you actually get customer centricity at scale? Can you walk me through some steps? I think, Sarah, that was you. So anything that you can think of?
Sure. Well, I would say like there will never be any substitute for talking to customers. So even as you scale yourself, forums for us, like our customer advisory board, our product advisory boards, just knowing customers and being able to text them and forming a relationship to them, like there's no substitute for that. In terms of how to use AI to do it, a few things that I found. One is just whether you're on G2 or Capterra or anything like that, takes a lot of time to read through every review. And so being able to feed those all into a GPT or a Claude and be able to summarize themes, be able to call out like, what are the top reasons people who gave 3 stars cited for not giving 5 stars. I think that's an interesting one rather than just like the top likes and dislikes. And then similarly for Gong would be to, or whatever system you use, like look through, if you're targeting a specific persona, look through different calls related to that, find one customer account and have it summarize every single call from that account, or, all calls that have X title, like try to gather that and be able to find some insights specifically from that. And we found that to be a really, really invaluable tool for us in developing personas and refining them.
Cool. I think one there too is maybe, I don't know, maybe there's like some of this like at scale piece that people might be kind of balking at, but it's like, do you remember what we used to do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or maybe you're still doing, and it's like you're like copy pasting maybe into like an Excel spreadsheet, and like someone is manually like reading those things and then like, making their own kind of like summary or even like their own like sentiment analysis, and you're just like manually going through it. I've done this, and it's a very intensive. It takes a lot of time. It's exhausting, especially when you have a lot of reviews or you have a lot of feedback that you're trying to go through. So being able to now like copy paste that, put that into Claude, ChatGPT, and ask for these summaries or ask for correlations between things and to like, organize, it's brilliant. It's great. And I would say directionally correct most of the time, which is really nice that we kind of mentioned earlier, the human in the loop stuff. So it's really good. Anybody want to add anything there on customer centricity?
I kind of struggle with this, not struggle, but so there's so many opportunities to kind of mine insights and capture recommendations, which is great. I also think that we need to be careful that we're not distancing ourselves from this information, because again, like as product marketers, our superpower is to see this big holistic picture and kind of be that go-to expert in what is it that we need to do to be successful? Like, what is your understanding and what is that output? And if we're automating too much of that and we're not touching it, that won't get into our minds. And so it won't be part of our understanding of that customer. And that applies to so many other things, by the way. I wonder, in other parts of my life, how distant I am going to get from information in general and how our brains are going to change. So it's just interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this evolves too.
I think that's a super important point, right? As product marketers, what we should not do is, kind of treat AI like the easy button, because it's not. There's no, and if you do that, it's like there's danger going down that path for a lot of reasons, right? And so the flip side, though, is don't treat it like the easy button, but treat it like the thing that is going to make you very, very efficient at the stuff that maybe doesn't really require a lot of brain space. Like, again, I think of like there are elements of the creation of a battle card that feel just like process driven, and some of it is added value, but a lot of it is not really adding a lot of value. The thing that does add value is the thinking that goes into it, the understanding of competitive landscape and personas. And so I completely agree with that thought, which is like, don't go down the path of trying to automate the whole job. Figure out what parts of your job automation would be really great to have, so that you can focus more time on that other part.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen GitLab's battle cards, you probably can. You should Google it. I am like always impressed with how open your team is. I mean, and I guess in full company, I have used a lot of your work in the past. So Dave, thank you for helping me. You are my easy button a lot of the time. So
Good to know,
JD. If you haven't seen this, they publish like everything. Like even I think you guys are doing meetings now, like on YouTube, and it's like wild. Anyway.
I have to look this up.
This is a really good question, and it's a great follow-up. So we got a lot of upvotes for this one. Do you think there's shame around using AI for things that are like table stakes for PMs? We talked about positioning, messaging, storytelling. Do you think there's this, I don't know, like this feeling of shame is like such an interesting one for me? Claudia, you're shaking your head.
So I talk with peers all the time, what's going on in your company, blah, blah, blah. Everyone is so spread thin. We are being asked to do so much more than ever before. And the truth is it's not possible unless we find assistive technologies to help fill the gaps and speed us up. It's actually never crossed my mind because I just feel like it's generally an imperative and it's expected in a lot of ways.
Agree with that. I think the only shameful thing is I can 100% tell if an output is directly copy pasted from like ChatGPT or something else. And if you're not applying your own editorial lens and taste and thought process on top of their base output, then that's a miss, and I think does degrade trust.
For sure.
Yeah,
Don't write your blog posts with ChatGPT, please.
No, there's danger down that pathway as well. But the question really is a good one, right? And it makes me think about that. Like I had a meeting with one of the product marketers on my team the other day, and this person was showing me their work, and they said, "Hey, I used AI for this. I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Why did you say I'm so sorry?" So to the question of, is there shame in using it? I think that there is this feeling right now, kind of latent, maybe it's below the surface, of like, am I cheating by using AI? And I think the answer is no. I mean, to everything that Claudia just brought up, which is like, we need assisted technologies, especially in product marketing, where the ratio between PMM and PM might not be where it needs to be, and we're in competitive landscapes that are increasingly hard. And so by talking about principles like the one that came from co-intelligence in terms of always invite AI to the table, part of it is to say, like, let's destigmatize using this technology. So, and then let's have everybody share how they're using it so that we can actually learn from each other. And I think that'd be really, really helpful.
Really good. And I think if you're struggling with some of that shame too, I tried like Perplexity. If you want to like see your work, right? If it's important for you to kind of like connect how this information is being, pulled or synthesized, Perplexity is a great example of that. But this one was interesting too on that kind of a follow-up. So let's say you have no shame. You're writing your blog posts with ChatGPT. When you're putting together your go-to-market strategy, do you think we should disclose it?
Is this an internal strategy or I guess external assets? I think again, going back to Dave's point, like there's no need to lead internally with like, I used AI to do this. I think that is, an overkill, but certainly if you are using AI to like synthesize market research or something like that, I think using some way to get to sources, whether that's Perplexity, Gemini, figuring out like how you can understand what sources it is drawing from is important.
I think it's kind of at least an existential question. Sorry, going deep again. If everybody starts using foundational models or AI to create everything, we're all going to start pulling from the same sources. So everything's going to start to look the same. So if one person's writing a blog post about finance transformation, and they're using Claude, and then a competitor is doing the same thing, how different is that output going to be? And as a society, I think a lot of our knowledge is getting consolidated into these models and these tools. So where do we find that original thinking, once it starts getting to an extreme? That wasn't the question, but
No,
I think it leads to that. Should you disclose it? I mean, I don't think that's really the question. I think for how long are we going to be able to have these tools making decisions for us around what the steps in a go-to-market strategy should be? Because if everybody has the same information, then it's not competitive enough.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna get a security that doesn't suck too much, right? Like the Vanta billboard, right? It's something. It's like
compliance that doesn't suck.
Compliance. Yeah, there. Thank you. It's still like it's like I think that's the original thought, right? Like that's the piece of that where like you're just not gonna get that. It doesn't have that like kind of creative aspect of it, right? Or the wordplay that kind of comes with that is really really important as well. So I'm with you there. And that kind of answered a few, maybe a little further down around like copywriting as well. But I think something that as you're thinking through this kind of, there's one around here like decision making about how you're using it. For me, and I'm curious to how you guys, I like it as like a brainstorm. When you're like just kind of one-on-one by yourself. Like, how does this sound? What does this look like? Pretend you're a dev. Pretend you're a CTO at a Fortune 500 company. Like, does this sound right? Is this like, what am I missing? Like, and it's like, you can kind of like poke holes in your own thinking, or at least like, get like more ideas, which is like really helpful. Like, I find that piece really helpful because I don't know, for you guys, like I'm remote. And so I don't want another Zoom meeting. Like sometimes you just want to, go heads down and just, kind of like battle yourself as you're trying to get your own like critical thinking, that intellectual curiosity. But curious with everyone else, like how do you think about that for thinking maybe decision making in using these tools, and then kind of like pulling back to that like shame piece? They're all kind of interconnected.
And my version of sort of the AI light bulb moments about probably 6 to 12 months ago, right? Working on taking our AI solution to market for a while. I had thought a lot about the content creation part of AI, but I didn't really think about the 80% of other work that a product marketer or a field enablement person could do. And then I came across this prompt that was like a pretty in-depth prompt, but it was like the GPT or the AI would serve as a coach for you and a mentor for you as you practice sales-oriented negotiation. And it was this big light bulb moment, and you'd go through the prompt and you'd give it certain characteristics of what's the product you're selling, who are you selling it to, and all of that. And then literally for 30 minutes, it was me and the AI going back and forth, where the AI was pretending to be the customer. I was pretending to be the salesperson. And it was teaching me basically on my own value drivers and my own discovery questions. And it was this like out of this world experience, because it was like, it would actually pause the simulation halfway through and say, Dave, in this case, you might have wanted to go with value driver A versus B. And I was like, this is amazing, because in a different world, to do something like this, you would have to take your entire sales team, fly them to a place, spend two days going through field enablement and simulation and training just to get them to the point where they're able to have conversations with actual customers. And I'm not saying don't do that. That's still important to engage with other people in that way. But just imagine if, as a field enablement exercise that you do with your entire field, you can actually roll out a mentor program like this where they can simulate with it. So that was my light bulb when it comes to that.
Gong should be packaging that up and monetizing it.
Someone in the audience, take that idea.
That's good.
Yeah, I use it as a thought partner. Just to elaborate on, sometimes I'm just tired. I'm like, can you just keep going? Give me other words for this. What would I call this campaign? Or what do you think this person would be concerned about, or whatever? So yeah, there's that, like, the collaboration piece. It's never given me anything that's amazing that I couldn't have sat down and thought about myself. But again, it's like helping to speed things up. So it's not a substitute for good original thinking. I had another thought, but another use case, responding to emails where someone's asking you something that you don't want to do. Just, how do I reply? It like crafts that for you as well. So not just actual like development of your output and your deliverable, but operationally and internally, you can also use it.
Yes, uploading a response and saying, make this 50% shorter. I use that.
Like, that's a cheery tone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Because like sometimes you just need to like repackage those responses to some people in a certain way, and like having the right tone can be really helpful. So yes, and maybe you're not in the right mind space to really do that. So I like that one. I like that one. Dave, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm super interested, Claudia. What's the prompt that you used? Because I'm gonna take notes right now. What's the prompt that you used to say no to a thing?
So one of them was, there's a difficult situation, and I explained the situation, and I said, how can I respond to this with positive intention? And that was kind of it. So I uploaded the email, asked for a response with positive intent, and it gave me like a really, really long answer, like a lawyer wrote it. And then I just asked it to shorten it, make it more colloquial. So it was a back and forth. That was a difficult situation, but you can do things that are much more simple just to get through it.
Love it. Thank you.
Good one. I like it. Again, we just got back from a quick team offsite, and one of the best advice that someone gave me was, imagine that person reading it is angry. What would it sound like? And I've never thought about that, because it's always been like me, assume positive intent, assume it's always been me, but it's like, what if they're just angry? Like, what would this sound like? Now go change it. Like, smiley faces, thumbs up, whatever it may be, to get that tone and voice to come across. So definitely a good one there. Let's move on. This one has a lot of upvotes. People are very interested. We've already mentioned a lot of tools throughout, but one is, with so many new AI tools out there, which are you finding provide the most firepower for product marketers? Anything stick out? I know we've mentioned Jasper, we've mentioned Claude, ChatGPT, we mentioned Gemini, Perplexity. Anything else that you want to add, or plus one?
Most of our stuff is homegrown and a little bit proprietary. So, and that's really what we are required to use. So I don't have a good answer for that, but externally in my personal life, I use Perplexity a lot. I use ChatGPT voice now because I'm lazy and busy and trying to do 10 things. And Claude I'll use when I really need like quality of output. Those are kind of the big three.
I don't have any
so-
ones to, oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I don't have new ones to add. And I think there's this like arms race and feeling like you have to adopt every new tool out there to stay up to date. And I think also we're seeing like a lot of platformization. A lot of the products you already use are adopting AI in very interesting ways. And so don't feel as though you need to go out and advocate for budget for 20 new tools.
Yeah, same. And I really appreciate that comment, which is like, product marketers can get the feeling like they're behind the 8 ball, so they have to adopt all of the things. Don't adopt all the things. Adopt a few. And I think we brought a few of them up over here, and this distinction between, again, the power drill AIs versus the platforms that you already use that are kind of purpose built for the thing that you want to do. There is a person on LinkedIn who's great thinker on AI named Lisa Adams. If you don't follow her, definitely recommend following her as well. She calls it her AI Justice League. And that AI Justice League is basically Perplexity, ChatGPT and Anthropic Claude.
There we go. I've got my Justice League. That's awesome.
All right, let's make this our last question. Last question for you is really kind of thinking like, kind of future forward in any big concerns that you have about AI, its potential like negative impact into the product marketing field, and then maybe we can end on a positive note too, on maybe some of the positive impacts that we'll see.
I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I think every knowledge worker needs to think about what their job is going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. It's already changing very quickly, and product marketing is not going to be immune to this. So there is going to be, in my mind, a lot of consolidation of function as we can streamline a lot of the admin work, whether it's saving time for specific functions or eliminating them because most of their work can be automated. So as a product marketer, Dave, you're saying always bring AI to the table. Bring it to the table, think about how it can automate your entire job, and then start thinking about new things. Start thinking about what are the things that I wish I could do that I couldn't because I was spending time doing the boring stuff. And you always have to be having that conversation or you will become irrelevant. And it's not just product marketing, it's any function.
Yes, I think huge opportunity to have it push PMMs up the value chain, do more of the stuff that everyone's like, oh, I wish I could spend more time talking to customers, like thinking about what's next, so on and so forth. And like hopefully now that will be possible. And I think like there's such a scarcity already. Anyone who's hiring PMMs, which Vanta is, go apply. There's such a scarcity of great PMM talent, and it's such a sought after skill set that I can only imagine that again, like the PMMs who adopt it, who learn how to make it work for them, will just become in higher demand.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I'm actually deeply curious to hear from the community about this as well. And I've got a survey that I just put out. I'll put it in the comments section, like 3 minutes, and it asks questions that are about this. I think a lot of this is true. For me, the danger side of this is, while you always want to bring AI to the table, you should also have guardrails. And some of those guardrails have to do with like, hey, in a business setting, just be careful about using sensitive information in AI, like corporate sensitive information in AI. Just be really careful about that, because what can end up happening is the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that is associated with creating bad headlines will then creep back into product marketers and will swing all the way the other way, which is like, you can't use this technology. And so I'd say always bring AI to the table, use some guardrails when you do it. And then on the positive side, I think, again, this is an opportunity for us to say, like, how do we use this ethically? How do we use this responsibly? And how do we be a force for change within our organizations?
Oh, thank you so much for your time, for sharing with us. This was a great one. I learned a lot. Who doesn't love some good prompts? Who doesn't love some really good use cases? I hope all of you listening also got some really good takeaways there, or at least some things to go start Googling or perplexing. I don't know what you do with that one. Being perplexed. I don't know. Like, what is the thing? She's the brand expert, and so she can help us out with some some verbiage there, maybe. But Alex, we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, awesome. Actually, I know we want to end on a positive note, but I want to, I was thinking about Claudia and original thinking, and that's, so there's going to be like a Peter Thiel question that is interesting for everybody on the panel. What do you believe about AI that most people would disagree with you on? And so whoever wants to go first. I think you're muted, Claudia and Dave.
Muted.
This can go, to like kind of an extreme place, but I think it's going to fundamentally transform our economic systems, our society, and the way that humans define their value in the world.
Wow. Yeah.
I guess mine would
That's
be
very big.
I think there are so many people who are positing themselves as experts and like being able to kind of predict with accuracy where it's taking us. And I would say we just don't know, and I don't think anyone knows. And so approaching it with a lot of curiosity rather than coming from a place of feeling as though I know. Not a LinkedIn influencer on the topic.
Yet. I think so. What's the thing that I believe about AI that most people would disagree about? I think that we're not at the tippy top of the hype cycle. I think we passed it really quickly. I think we're past the hype cycle, and we're in that trough right now where like people are a little bit disillusioned, and what they're doing to get out of it is finding real use cases for AI in their jobs. It is a great place for us to be. I think most people that you talk to would think, hey, we're all hype right now. I actually think we've gone beyond the hype, and people are like looking for answers.
Yeah.
I agree. I think folks are realizing that it can also be a value suck versus a value add. So thinking about how it's a value add instead.
Yeah. How about you, JD?
This is controversial or not. I feel like maybe it is, but it's actually useful. It's actually like helpful. I think I talk with a lot of marketers, and they're still just really skeptical. They don't want to use it. They bury their heads in the sand, or maybe there's some of the shame. And I think for me, I know I live in a bubble within the tech world, but it's like, it's really nice. It's great. Like, come on over. The grass is pretty green. So I do find it very helpful and useful in my day-to-day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'll add, since I put you all on the spot, so I have to think on the spot. I'd probably say, like, I think to Claudia's point earlier, where if this becomes, we're all have the same source for the information we produce, I think it's probably going to lead to the need for us to come back to our original strengths and like understand what makes us unique, because that's going to be the filter that helps us create better work and different output, because everything else is, we're going to rely so much on AI. So I think maybe it brings us all back to really like deep introspection and learning our own creativity and strengths. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I will just one last thought that occurred to me, which I think Dave and Claudia both touched on, but just using it responsibly within your company's policies, like as the companies scale, certainly like within Vanta, we're a security and compliance company, we take that very seriously, like using the tools as they are like designed to be used, and just kind of partnering with your internal teams to figure out what is and is not appropriate is going to help everybody ensure that the trust in PMM continues and the trust in these products continue.
No, that's a good point. Okay, so with that said, let me transition to some announcements. First, I want to thank the panel. You all were amazing. A lot of the panel is hiring. So if you're thinking about your next role, you want to go work for really great people, and these are the best. So go ahead and look them up and find roles at their companies. So that's my first announcement. The second one is, if you had a question that didn't get answered, either you asked it and we didn't get to it, or you didn't, go to Sharebird. You can search thousands of answers from a lot of top leaders, and I think you'll probably find a lot of great insights that will help you there. Third, just a reminder, our next event is September 26th. I just dropped a link again for everybody on sales enablement before I dropped the wrong link, so here's the right one. And lastly, if you have any questions or feedback on our events, just email me at or email us at events@sharebird.com. But I just wanted to say, like, really a big thank you to the panel for being willing to take time to share your knowledge. Thank you. All right, everyone. Take care. See ya.